class. This is going to be a yin yoga class, or a very restorative, slow, stretchy class for midwinter. So if, like me, you're in the northern hemisphere, it is cold, it is windy outside, the days are short and there's not much light, this is just a really nice practice for winding down, getting some essential stretches through the body, and also just bringing a little moment of calm and peace and quiet into the holiday season. It can be so full of bustle and busyness and conflicting emotions and obligations. This is a chance just to take a little bit of time for yourself. So the practice, we're going to start with a little bit of breath work, and then we're going to come into some longer held stretches, and you'll want some props, by which I mean you'll want cushions. If you've got a bolster, great, but if you don't have a bolster, just grab some pillows from the bed, some cushions from the sofa. I've got like a floor cushion that you can fold in half, which I really love. I've got a smaller, kind of bulkier cushion. I'm sitting on a blanket, so just grab yourself some nice comfy things to support yourself through the stretches. And the thing to remember when you're coming into a restorative practice like this is that we will be holding the stretches for a couple of minutes each, and it's going to be about slowness and finding ease and relaxation in the pose. So rather than an active practice where we're really thinking about muscular engagement, instead we're thinking about releasing the tension in the body and doing as little as possible in the pose. So for that reason, I would say if you're feeling actually quite activated, quite jumpy, quite stressed at the moment, maybe this isn't the practice for you right now. Instead, what I'd suggest is go and do the somatic practices for overwhelm that I've linked to this video, and do that first, and then come back and do these yin yoga stretches, which will really help to calm your nervous system. But don't try and require your nervous system to become calm if actually it's quite activated and wants a little bit of movement. Okay, so we will just settle in first of all, just for a little bit of breath work, just to help the nervous system get used to the idea that we're slowing down. So we'll start with some alternate nostril breathing, and I've done this in the classes before, so if you're familiar with it, just crack on and get into the practice. For those of you that this is new to you, you could bring the first two fingers of your right hand up between your eyebrows for a little bit of pressure, and then you'll use your thumb and your ring finger alternately to open and close your right and left nostrils. If this feels a bit much, if you don't like having your hand in front of your face, then instead just use your thumb and your first finger to alternately open and close your nostrils. And I'll just do this version just so that you can see. So I'm going to close my right nostril and exhale out through the left. Then inhale through the left, close it off, open the right, and exhale through the right. Inhale through the right, close it off, open the left, exhale. And that's one round. So inhale through the left, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right, exhale through the left. And we'll do 5 to 10 rounds, just depends on your pace and the time it takes you. You could always pause the video if you want to spend a little bit longer on it. So starting from the left, inhale through the left. Close it off, exhale right. Inhale right. Close it off, exhale left. And just continue on your own. going to take one more round. And then bring both hands down towards your lap. Breathe in and out through both nostrils at the same time. And notice anything that has shifted or changed. Maybe a slight slowing in the pace of your breath or in the pace of your thoughts or in any sense of rushing in your nervous system. Let's come into our first stretch, which is going to be a chest and upper back opener. I'm going to use my bolster here. If you don't have bolsters, just make yourself a nice pile of cushions. You could make this a little bit taller if you've got a bolster by bringing a blanket over the top, or you could also prop it up on some other pillows so it's slightly more at an angle. See what feels comfy for you. We're going to come back over the bolster and we're just going to try and aim the edge of the bolster to where in your back you really want that stretch to be. So you could bring it in just above the lumbar spine. I wouldn't crunch it right up against the base of your spine. But you could bring it in to that mid back and let yourself come back over it. But you might also want to take it a little bit higher. You know, if you've got kind of crunchy shoulders, maybe you wiggle the edge of the bolster in to that kind of sweet spot wherever feels tight, and make that be the place where you focus on finding that bit of stretch and extension. Now, if you've got the bolster a bit higher up your back, what I'd suggest is just tilt the pelvis up and under a little bit, and you'll get more length through your low back and you'll notice more of a stretch through your upper spine. So find where you want the bolster to sit. Take a moment with all of these poses just to kind of wiggle around, find the version that works for you, and then think about what do you want to do with your legs. This is a stretch for the upper back and shoulders, so your feet could be on the mat just supporting you. You could bring your legs straight and floppy, and that would change the sensation on the back as well, slightly drawing the pelvis down, slightly emphasizing that stretch through the spine. You could also bring your feet together into a butterfly and have a gentle opening through the inside of your hips, your groin, and into your pelvic floor. This might distract you from the upper back stretch. So if you're instinctively going for a butterfly, because that's what you always do, I might suggest just for this time, change the position of your legs and find something that really allows you to focus your attention on the sensation in your upper back. And then once you've found the version of the pose that's right for you, see if you can start to recapture that slowness, the intention of your breathing. You could even bring your hand up here and take another round of alternate nostril breathing. And then allow yourself to rest in this pose. Notice if you're gripping anywhere in your body. Can you relax your jaw? Relax your tummy and your pelvic floor and your hips. Relax your hands at your sides. Breathing deeply into the whole of the front of the body. We'll stay here for another 10 slow, deep breaths. Take a moment just to wiggle fingers and toes, bringing a little bit of movement back in the body. And we're going to move from here into a half hero. So first we'll just lift ourselves a little bit off the bolster just to adjust the position of our props. So if your legs were long, bring your feet back in and press your hands down, tuck the chin to the chest to start coming off the bolster. So I'm actually going to lift my bolster a little bit. You absolutely don't need to. You could just come back over it low on the ground again. I quite like the sensation of just lifting it slightly, so I have more of a tilt to my pelvis. And I'm also going to keep my blanket handy to support my knee. So I'll start on the left-hand side so that you can see. Just going to bring the left foot to the outside of my left hip. Lift myself up just to tuck the pelvis under, lining up with that bolster. And then here is where I might bring the blanket underneath my knee for a little bit of extra support, and then come back towards the bolster again. Oh, that's nice. So the stretch here is down the front of the quads. So it's an opening down the front left-hand side of the body. There's a little bit of a stretch into the front part of the left psoas here, into the hip, slightly into the chest still. You could have your right foot planted on the ground. You could let it go straight again. Or you could bring your right foot to the inside of that left knee and press the sole of the foot against the knee, which is the version I particularly like. I find it really comfy. And then whichever way you choose, again, we're just going to try and come back into that slow, deep breath. And here you might notice a stronger sensation. Quads can be very, very tight, especially if you've been walking, running, sitting a lot. So notice if your mind wants to sort of skitter away from the sensation and take you off to busy thoughts and distract you. And instead see if you can gently bring your attention to that stretch. Become aware of it. And breathe those slow, deep breaths. And maybe just imagine that with every inhale, you're breathing deeply into the tissues in the front of the left thigh, oxygenating them, reconditioning them, hydrating them. If you can relax your shoulders, really relax your pelvis as well, especially if you've lifted your bolster a bit, you have a little bit more of a gentle tilt. It can be easier just to relax the pelvic floor here. And again, 10 nice, slow, deep breaths before we change sides. We're going to change sides. Just lift yourself up enough that you could shift your weight to the right hip And gently extend your right leg. You might want to just wiggle it out a little bit, get the blood flow back into it. And then we'll just go straight to the other side. So bringing the right foot beside the right hip. On the outside, you can support it with a blanket. Reposition yourself. Coming back over your props. And notice here if it feels different on the right side compared to the left. Maybe there's more tightness or less tightness. Maybe your back feels a little different. Maybe you feel the pull somewhere slightly different in the inside of the hip, maybe, or down the front of the thigh. If you can come back again to those slow, deep breaths, remembering you can always use a round or two of Nadi Shodhana, of the alternate nostril breathing, to help calm your mind and your focus. And see if you can gently come back to that visualization, noticing if your mind is trying to move away from the stretch, from the discomfort, and instead gently bring your attention to this stretch. Breathe into the tissues. Imagine the oxygen hydrating them, softening them. Relax your tummy, your pelvic floor. Relax your shoulders and your jaw. This is your moment of stillness, when you don't need to rush, where you're allowing the support of the props and the weight of your body on the ground to do the stretching for you. There's nothing for you to do. You don't need to be energetic. You can just allow your body to find its stretch. Take one final deep breath here. And then we're just going to gently lift ourselves up enough to straighten that right leg. And just give your legs a little bit of a wiggle. Maybe give them a rub as well, down the backs of the knees, down the front of the thighs. And check in and see how the upper back and the legs are feeling after our first two deep stretches. I'm going to bring the bolster down now so that we can recline back onto the floor, but keep it handy. We'll need it in a minute. Allow yourself to come down and just settle on the flat and notice first of all how this feels. How do your hips, your low back and your shoulders respond now just to letting your weight be at rest on the mat? And relax your hips, your pelvic floor even here. Maybe give your hips a little bit of a rub. Just encouraging that ease into your body with the heat of your hands. And then we'll just press our feet into the ground, lift the hips a little bit to the right, bring the knees up towards the chest and over to the left. And you could bring your left hand to weigh that top knee down. Maybe bring the right arm out to the side, just in a cactus pose or out straight. You could even turn your head Look towards your right hand, and we're just going to take a gentle twist. 10 breaths on each side. Try and relax your hips, relax your tummy. Maybe come in and take Nadi Shodhana again. Let me bring your right hand in. Bring your head back to center. Roll onto your hips. Pause for a moment with your pelvis in neutral. Feel the difference between the right side and the left. And then shift your hips to the left. Pick the knees up. Drop them towards the right. Maybe your right hand weighs that top knee down. Left arm can come out to the left. You could look towards your left hand. Again, maybe you want to take another round of alternate nostril breathing. Bring your left arm in. And again, roll yourself back onto the back of your pelvis. Pause for a moment and check in for what's changed through your twist. And now this is where we're going to grab the bolster. Slide it down next to you. Pressing your feet into the mat. Lift up to bring the bolster or whatever other prop you're using underneath your seat. So you want it underneath your tailbone, but with your low back, your lumbar spine free. So not up into the low back, but really underneath your seat. Again, wiggle around. Found the version of the pose that's comfortable for you. We'll start with our feet flat on the ground, and you could bring the arms out to the side, or you could bring the arms above the head as well. Get a little bit of a stretch for the latissimus dorsi, the underside of your armpits and your underarms, a little bit of a shoulder opener. And here's a really nice opportunity to breathe deeply into the whole of the front of your body, breathing all the way into your abdomen, maybe all the way down into your hips, relaxing your pelvic floor, your hips, your legs, Feeling the support of the bolster underneath you and feeling the weight of your body gently pressing your shoulders, your upper back, the back of your neck a little bit more open. Finding that gentle expansion through your low back. Again, let's take 10 breaths here. Notice if you're holding tension in your body. Just see if you can allow yourself to get heavier with every exhale. Noticing those little micro shifts in your body as your spine lengthens, as your weight naturally draws your shoulders deeper into contact with the floor. Your arms are above your head, bring them back beside you. And I'll give you an option here is just to stay as you are. Or if you want to go a little bit deeper into the front of the body, again, you could walk your legs long here. Just watch out for your low back. If there's any pinching or compression, then that probably doesn't suit your anatomy. So bring your feet back up if that happens. The other option, which I'm going to take, is actually just lift my legs up towards the ceiling. I'm just going to gently hold on to the bolster just for balance. And then just let your legs naturally rock forwards and back. Finding a little bit of a tip of the pelvis. And then a correction the other way. So this is a lovely, less passive, but still very gentle stretch for the psoas muscles. At the same time, feeling the legs become weightless, feeling the upper back pressing even more into the floor, and really noticing the support underneath you. Gently bring your knees in towards your chest and then bring them back to the ground. Press your feet into the ground to slide the bolster out. Bring your hips down to the mat and just allow them to really settle for the moment. Just check in with how your low back feels. And then when you're ready, just roll onto one side and just come up onto all fours. We're going to make our way into our final pose, which is a supported child's pose. But just before we do that, let's just take a couple of rounds of cat-cow. I'm just going to pad my knees because I want to stay comfy. Bringing the hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. Gently drop the belly, shoulder blades come together, tailbone lifts, gaze is ahead of you, and then exhale, the tailbone tucks. Upper back reaches towards the ceiling and the head drops. Just articulating backwards and forwards through the spine. You could also make this a little bit more organic. Moving more in circles or figures of 8. Noticing any little creaky spots and stretching through them. You could also rock back towards your heels and then forward onto your hands a couple of times. Just testing your low back before you come into that child's pose. And then we're going to bring the big toes together, knees as wide as you would like. Bring your bolster or even a bigger pile of cushions in front of you. You could even make it taller, really as tall as you want. Coming forward just so that you can bring your belly to rest on the bolster. Hands could be wrapping around the bolster, or you could turn your palms upwards and hold your forehead in your hands. Either way, just focusing on letting the hips settle towards the heels, feeling into the support of the props underneath you, and feeling now this big counter stretch through the spine, curving over towards the earth, finding the support of the props underneath us. And breathing here into the low back, into the whole expanse of the spine. You can imagine with every breath the tissues through the low back, the glutes, the hips, along the spine, all the way up to the back of the neck, loosening, becoming oxygenated. And find any pose where you're coming face down with a bit of a curve through the spine is really nurturing for the nervous system. But I also love coming into this pose around midwinter, sense of turning towards the earth, turning in on ourselves, taking this moment to check in with our hearts, our intentions, our needs. So maybe whilst you're in this pose, you allow your mind just to do that little check-in. How are you doing at the moment? How are the preparations for the holidays treating you? What do you need over this midwinter season? And what has been happening for you recently? What are the moments that have challenged your sense of self, your authenticity, but also the moments where you've really managed to express yourself, where you're proud of your contribution, where you've supported others or you've been supported in turn? I'm going to stay here for about 15 slow, deep breaths. Take one more nice deep breath here. Gently lift yourself just enough to take your props away. And we're just going to come down onto our bellies, maybe making a pillow for your head. Gently rock your hips side to side, loosen out your back. Check in if there's anything else that it feels like your body really wants. And then I just encourage you to find a comfortable shape where you feel like you can rest and be soft for a few minutes. You might like to stay on your belly. You might want to turn over for a more traditional shavasana. Perhaps you want to come to seated or curl up on your side in a little seed pose. Just make sure you're cozy and comfy. You could either just rest in stillness, letting your mind visit with the sensations that have been created in your body, or you could just sit up briefly to click on the Yoga Nidra meditation that I'm going to link at the end of this practice, and let me guide you through that relaxation. Whatever you choose, thank you so much for practicing with me. I hope that you feel more at ease and at rest in your body and your nervous system. I look forward to practicing again with you soon.